Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about placing employees under some exempt status under the FLSA, Fair Labor Standards Act. The rules and regulations that I discuss apply to anyone in the United States, but I also want to give you the disclaimer of I am not a licensed attorney. Nothing that provided in this video is legal professional advice. There could be errors or omissions that could lead to costly litigation. Please consult with an attorney. There's so many nuances in this law. There's small intricacies that are in these laws that you might miss. I am not explaining the entire picture. I can't do that in less than 20 minutes. I just got done videotaping a video where I discuss FLSA and exemptions. That presentation took me about 40 minutes in length, and I'm cutting this in half. So there's some information that I am leaving out, and it's up to you to please do your due diligence. My question to you is this: how many of you out there are placed under a salary? Let's just say you have a set salary. Doesn't matter if you work overtime or not, your pay is always the same. And if you answered yes, okay, my question to you is, how much are you paid? Now, if you're in California, your pay should be $30 an hour, full time. Is your pay $30 an hour full time? If you are an exempt employee, if you're not, it doesn't matter, but if you're exempt employee, you must get 2 times the amount of minimum wage. Now, if you're in another state, then the minimum wage for your state is probably not $15 an hour, just times it by 2, and that's how much your employer is supposed to pay you. So in today's video, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the different types of exemptions, and I'll leave it as brief as possible. This video is helpful for those of you who are business owners, your security card companies, and if you're a company and you notice that you did something wrong, perhaps you wrongly classified an employee as exempt when you shouldn't have, talk to an attorney, but it's not the end of the day. You guys, let's start doing it right. Let's doing it right day one. If you have been wronged by your employer, again, try to find a remedy. You don't have to go out there and call an attorney unless you want to, but I like to just squash issues man to man, or if you're a woman to woman, or woman to man, whatever it be. I like to look my employer directly in the eye and squash any issues that we have. Okay, if you screwed me all these hours of pay and I'm entitled to this much of overtime, let's have an adult discussion, and please just compensate me for what I'm supposed to be compensated for if you wrongly classified me. Okay, so there's a handful of exemptions, but in today's video we're going to talk about administrative exemption, and we're going to talk about the executive exemption. Please note that there's a professional exemption, there's also a sales exemption, and there's some type of technical exemption as well if you provide some type of technical expertise, but I'm not going to cover that because in the security world, the issues normally revolve around administrative and executive exemption, so we're going to limit to that. Now, please excuse me, I might have to resort to my notes. This is a newer subject. And again, I might have to consult with the notes that I made, but I did summarize the information. So administrative exemptions. So number one, you have to pay your employee 2 times the rate of minimum wage. Second, the majority of the employee's work has to involve office or non-manual work that's related to the business. And also, this employee has to be able to exercise discretion and exercise independent judgment with significant matters. Some of you might be thinking, wait a minute, this seems like a secretary or receptionist that I hired or that I'm about to hire. This is the difference though. Your secretary or receptionist does not have independent discretion to make significant decisions. They don't have that. They're not able to exercise discretion as well. That is the main difference. Are they able to engage in office or non-manual work? Yes. Okay. Now, this, again, just let's be clear that under an administrative exemption, this person is most of the time in the office. Some of you have maybe a security lieutenant or a post commander, or maybe a security captain that belongs in your organization, or maybe a deputy chief who normally doesn't go out in the field. Now, they can go out in the field, okay? But the majority of the work has to be office or non-manual work related. That meaning they're not out there walking around and patrolling. And that's 51% of the time, or over 50% of the time, has to involve office or non-manual work. The second and the last exemption that I'm going to discuss is executive. So number one, you have to pay them double the amount of minimum wage. In the year, that would amount to $62,400, still at $15 an hour, because we're in California. Whatever state you're in, please do your own calculations. And at least more than 50% of the time, the majority of the work have to involve managing the business or a subdivision of the business. So let's just say you have we'll just say a business management company where you oversee rental units, oversee different types of property, and you have a separate department or division that's just for security. Well, that's what subdivision refers to. Under executive exemption, you also have to be able to direct the work of at least 2 employees, 2 full-time employees. Direct the work, okay? And you have to have the ability to either fire or hire employees to fall under an exempt status under the executive portion. You also, so it's either the ability to hire or fire, or the ability to recommend hiring or termination, and your recommendation has to be significant. So this is what we're seeing out there. We'll get a business owner, starts a security company, starts an investigation company, and they want to hire their family. They don't have the experience, so they hire. In California, we need what's called a qualified manager. Qualified manager runs the day-to-day operations of the business. That person is responsible for the business. They hire that person. They put them on the certificate so that they can operate the business. Whereas the security owner doesn't have to have that experience. Security owner hires a cousin, a brother, or even a mother, an uncle, just anyone along the family bloodlines. Eventually, and I've seen this before, eventually one of these family members are going to perform their work in a substandard manner. Maybe they might not show up to work, they just goof around, or they don't do what they're supposed to be doing, maybe leaving the gates unlocked, whatever it is. The qualified manager, or the manager in charge, is supposed to discipline these employees after attempting to hold them to a standard. And there might be a time when this manager is going to recommend termination from one of these family members. And what's going to happen? So this manager is going to reach out to the owner of the company and basically ask that owner if it's okay to fire an uncle, a sister, a brother, a cousin, a family member. And what we end up seeing is the owner says, no, we'll just keep giving them chances. And then the whole process just keeps repeating itself. And what ends up happening is the manager, the qualified manager, becomes powerless. Looking back in time, well, actually moving ahead in time, if this qualified manager wants to leave because he or she is just fed up, there's a possibility that that person's going to file a claim with the labor department and state that they were not paid overtime when they should have. They're disgruntled. And what argument is the employer going to have? Well, I tell you one thing, this manager is going to argue that they did not have the authority to hire or fire employees, let alone they did not have the authority to recommend termination or hiring of employees in a significant way, because this person was shot down every single time. So that arrangement is not going to, it just not going to work out. But I'm just giving you a visual representation, a visual image on how an executive exemption would work and how it would not work. One last issue in private security. Many of you watching this channel own a security company or a private investigations company. You might, especially if you're in the security sector, you might employ a patrol officer to patrol different accounts along a route. Let's just say you have 10 properties along the route. This patrol officer would be responsible for supervising, for all intents and purposes, we'll say 3 guards out of the 10 accounts. So that leaves 7, okay, that leaves 7 accounts that don't have a standing guard. The patrol officer will supervise those 3 guards, okay, as they pass through. At the same time, they'll patrol the other properties, the 7 other properties. This is the problem that you might run into. How are you going to manage the business, okay, and supervise 2 or more full-time employees if you're patrolling these 7 other properties during your route, during your shift? How are you going to be able to do that? And some of you actually have an answer, and you're able to articulate your reason. And you may need to articulate that reason to a judge, to the jury, to court. And that's awesome. But some of you don't even have an answer. And that's where you're going to fall into huge, big problems. And for that reason, when in doubt, don't place your employee under an exempt status. Don't do it. Just pay them the overtime if you have to. Okay? Now, let's just say, and this is also a problem that I see, is that a lot of times your security staff will call in sick and you still have this patrol officer that's salaried. If you have a standing guard post, you're probably, depending on how your business is set up, you're probably be very inclined to have your patrol officer sit on one of these properties for 3 or 4 hours just to make it look like there was a guard there. Now, ghosting accounts is an ethical issue, which is a topic of another discussion, but you might be inclined to do that, to ghost the account where 3 or 4 hours, patrol officer goes here, and then they'll go to another account. But this is the problem. If 51 or over 50% of the time is dedicated to filling in the gaps when an employee calls in sick, you're losing the ability to use the exempt status because they're not managing, they're manning a post. How can you manage the business if you are manning the post? And some of you have answers for me. You're able to articulate how you're able to manage the business if your patrol officer is at a post, but not everybody can do that. And I can't come up with any reason right now. I have difficulty articulating, but you might have an easier job articulating because it's your company, it's your security company. Again, when in doubt, pay your employees. So that's all I have for right now, you guys. Like I said before, I summarize as much as I can. The original video is about 40 minutes in length. This is gonna be part of my security management and leadership course that will be coming hopefully sometime this year. And I squished in all that information in this video. Is probably between 10 and 12 minutes in length. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Let me know if there's any employers out there who, after watching my video or maybe getting information from other people, have wrongfully classified you as a salaried employee. I'm just curious. You don't have to name the company, but just let me know if you fell into that predicament, and if so, how did you resolve it? Now, do you know of anybody else that was classified as exempt when they shouldn't have? Let me know what your thoughts are. If you guys have any questions, concerns, let me know. Take care.